local, live, late breaking. WESH 2 News Sunrise starts now.
It's important to point out to folks that the path of this is still uncertain.
Today, bracing for Ian. This morning, Florida is under a state of emergency as we continue to monitor the path of this storm. Thank you for starting your Monday with the Sunrise Team. I'm Jason Guy.
And I'm Meredith McDonough. Governor Ron DeSantis and other state officials are asking residents to take precautions and prepare for the worst as the storm strengthens.
This morning, our Sunrise Team is here to help get you prepared. Bob Hazen is live in Seminole County where storm preparations continue right now.
Sheldon Dutez and Sana Kadange are also here joining us. And Sheldon, local leaders are making last-minute preparations in case they need to open up any shelters for the homeless.
They are getting ready to open their doors for anyone in need if Ian gets too dangerous.
And this morning, NASA leaders are also preparing for Ian as the Artemis One rocket remains on the launch pad. We'll break down when they could make a decision about whether to roll it back inside, Jason.
All right, Sonica and Sheldon, thank you. But we are going to begin with our first morning weather team. We have meteorologist Kellyanne Class and Eric Burris standing by. They've been tracking Ian for you overnight.
And Kellyanne, we are about an hour away from the 5 a.m. advisory. What are we expecting?
We are expecting this system to really begin to strengthen as it continues to move through the Caribbean and into the Gulf. Right now, we have tropical storm watches and warnings in place for Southwest Florida and the Keys. Nothing in place for Central Florida just yet, but I do think later on today, whether it's this afternoon or this evening, we could start to see some of those stretch up our way. We saw tropical storm Ian winds of 70 miles per hour as it moves to the northwest at 13 miles per hour. Pressure is now down to 988 millibars. And want to show you that path from the National Hurricane Center. Again, we are still waiting on that 5 o'clock advisory, but this is the 11 o'clock path storm. Looks like by Tuesday, Category 3 hurricane as it lifts up towards the north away from Cuba, eventually strengthening to a Category 4 hurricane by Wednesday morning as it approaches the coast of Southwest Florida. From there, still uncertain exactly where this is going to move on in. It could go anywhere from the Panhandle to Central Florida and to make landfall by Wednesday and into Thursday. This is something that we are certainly going to have to watch for you. Again, waiting on that 5 o'clock advisory. But what we do know is it's certainly starting time to prepare. Eric Burris can talk more about that.
All right, Kellyanne, good morning to you. So here we are on our timeline. Today is when we're starting to prepare our homes. In other words, bringing in loose things such as lawn furniture, or at least bringing it up against the house. You need to get your house ready for some of these stormy conditions. All right, for tomorrow, we continue that prep. And then Wednesday late into Thursday is when the weather starts to get worse and worse. Meanwhile, it is Monday. We're heading to work, we're heading to school, and it is a lovely start to the day. Forecast starts off with temperatures in the 70s. We'll work into the lower range of the 90s, and we are bringing up that rain coverage little by little. Obviously, this week, the big weather talker is going to be the tropics. More on developing Tropical Storm Ian, at least from the Weather Department, in just a couple of minutes.
And in terms of traffic, not a lot of issues on the roadway this morning. Just following one crash here, South Orange Avenue at Weatherby Road, seeing those minor delays this morning. But our interstates are smooth sailing. Here's a live look from I-4. This is looking from Lake Mary Boulevard. You can see a smooth drive eastbound and westbound. Coming up in just a couple minutes, I'll have a look at those travel times. Jason the Mayor, back to you.
All right, Megan. And this morning, Seminole County continues to prepare for potential impacts of Ian.
And officials are offering up free sandbags at 3 locations around that county. WESH 2's Bob Hazen joins us live at one of the sites in Sanford. Bob, county leaders are also offering specials on pet adoptions before this storm.
Yeah, that's right. They are really trying to get the animal shelter cleared out before anything from this storm happens here. So starting today, Seminole County is making pet adoptions just $1. Now, as for those sandbags, we have seen a lot of people already over the weekend getting ready, shoveling dirt into bags to keep their homes safe. And in case we get hit hard, Seminole County is opening 2 more locations today.
With the uncertainty of this storm's path, Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona Beach has issued a mandatory evacuation order. It begins today at noon for all students, faculty members, and staffers on campus. That means classes are canceled today. Many say they're glad the school is being proactive in keeping everyone safe.
This morning, gas prices in Florida are lower than they were last week, but holding steady as Ian approaches. According to AAA, prices fell 4 cents per gallon last week. Drivers are now paying an average of $3.72 in Florida, which is the lowest daily average since January. In Orange County, you'll be paying a little less at $3.35 a gallon, and the cheapest gas in Central Florida right now is $3.30 in Brevard County. AAA says they do not expect fuel prices to spike because of the storm, because the refineries should not be impacted. However, we could see a temporary fuel shortage as people rush to fill up spare gas cans and also top off their cars. Florida leaders want you to keep an eye out for any price gouging. We've put the Florida Consumer Hotline on your screen right now. To report a scam or price gouging, give a call 1-866-9-NO-SCAM. Scams include companies rising prices of putting up shutters or boarding up your home, but can also be a store charging too much money for cases of water or gas.
Some homeless shelters in Central Florida are ready to open their doors for anyone in need should Ian become too dangerous. Sheldon Dutez is in studio with a look at the preparations and how our community can help. Sheldon.
And Jason, they are collecting extra food and clothing donations. They are also making sure that they have enough volunteers.
Sheldon, Ian's forecast continues to be refined every few hours. If you haven't done so already, download the WESH 2 News app and also our Hurricane Survival Guide. And don't forget to turn on those notifications to get all of the important updates you need to know straight to your phone.
A second child involved in a rowing accident from earlier this month has died. That's according to the North Orlando rowing team, which the child was part of. The team's boat capsized during a storm at Lake Fairview earlier in the month. The child was rushed to the hospital, but the team announced this weekend the child did not survive. Crews recovered the body of the other child the day after this accident.
Canada is reeling after remnants of Hurricane Fiona wiped out dozens of homes.
And we take a look at the widespread damage coming up here on Sunrise. Plus another delay for the Artemis One mission when NASA could decide whether to roll the rocket back ahead of Ian.
And our first warning weather team continues to track Ian right now. We'll have an update from meteorologist Kellyanne Klass and Eric Burris coming up. Stay with us.
You're watching WESH 2.
Welcome back to Sunrise on this Monday morning. We continue to monitor Tropical Storm Ian. It is expected to strengthen into a hurricane sometime today. Our first warning weather team will have an update for you in just a couple of minutes. This morning, the Artemis One rocket remains on the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center.
NASA leaders have already called off tomorrow's planned launch because of Tropical Storm Ian. And Sonika Dange joins us with more on what's next. And so, Sonika, leaders there at NASA are deciding if they're going to roll the rocket back into the vehicle assembly building before the storm.
Yeah, that's one of the major questions as we head into the work week, Jason. And mayor and managers at NASA met last night to discuss their options. The agency says it is closely monitoring the weather forecast associated with Tropical Storm Ian. NASA says they are conducting final preparations in case it decides to roll the SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft back into the vehicle assembly building before the storm. Managers are expected to meet again today to make a final decision on that rollback. If they do decide to move the rocket back inside, something to note here, it could take up to 3 days. We will, of course, be closely monitoring this, and we'll bring you an update.
Now it's first warning weather. Time now 4:16. We've got team coverage this morning. All eyes here on Ian. So a lot to get to.
Yeah, and we want to begin with first warning meteorologist Kellyanne Klass. Kellyanne, we're still some time away from that 5 a.m. advisory.
Yeah, so we're waiting for that latest update, but hurricane hunters are flying into this storm right now and say that the pressure is beginning to drop, which means it is beginning to intensify. And really, Eric, you know, we were watching this system and it wasn't looking that impressive yesterday.
Yesterday, there was just a little bit of dry air that had moved in, but as soon as the storm system was able to moisten that atmosphere, we saw that start to really get going, Kellyanne.
Yeah, you can see that on our satellite picture. It's really starting to get its act together as we take a look at Ian. Still a tropical storm with winds of 70 miles per hour, decent bursts of convection, and it's really starting to kind of get better organized as it's going to an atmosphere that has low shear and also pretty warm temperatures in the ocean waters. I want to show you the track. So this is the 11 o'clock track from last night. In turn with our models. So the models right there in the center, you could see by Wednesday they start to spread apart, indicating that we're still uncertain exactly where it's going to go. So anywhere from the Panhandle all the way into Southwest Florida towards the Sun Coast, all of those options are in play. So it's this area right here that we still need to watch. Two scenarios that could happen: a weaker storm means that it goes into the Panhandle, Big Bend area, but stronger storms mean landfall sooner and also a higher impact to Central Florida.
All right, so Kellyanne, just looking at the overall picture, we are in that cone, meaning that the forecast calls for this system to very much impact us. So for all of Central Florida, the threats are increasing day by day. And when we talk about those threats, it's isolated tornadoes, gusty winds, and some tropical downpours, and unfortunately, even flooding. For now, we're looking at Wednesday, Thursday being the worst weather. But I want to show you just how the computer models are feeling this. This is our own in-house Futurecast model with the official forecast cone. And I want you to notice that our Futurecast model is on the right side of that cone, which it has been consistently through this process. All right, so here's 2 p.m. tomorrow, sitting still on the right side of the cone, north of Cuba, really showing that organization pattern. Watch what happens into Wednesday. Our Futurecast has it coming in around the Sun Coast, whereas the official forecast is kind of from the Sun Coast toward the Gulf of Mexico. So the exacts are still not dialed in yet. Our forecast is getting more and more exact. We're just not to the point where we could say it's here or it's there. So based on the more generalization of the forecast, we're thinking the worst of the weather for Southwest Florida arrives Wednesday morning into our area Wednesday evening, and then starting to lift up to the north little by little by little. It's important to note we're waking up early, getting our kids ready for school. There is no threat for this system impacting us today. It is a lovely start to the day. As a matter of fact, look at these temperatures in our northern communities. Hello, dry air, 69 degrees in Ocala, 71 in DeLand, 73 degrees in Titusville. Our first warning live Doppler radar showing a few showers off Brevard County. That is not a big concern, though, of course. So little by little, we're getting into a more active weather pattern. For today, rain coverage sits at about 40%. For tomorrow, a 60% coverage of rain, and it's an impact day just because our southern areas have the potential to see some stronger storms. But Wednesday and Thursday, those are the days, if this system heavily impacts us, that's the timeline that it would fall through. So those are going to be our worst days, which means with good weather for today and tomorrow, make sure to secure your home so that there are no flying objects around. And then afterward, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, happy to say the storm moves out and we will be clearing nicely for the weekend. Megan, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. Only one issue to report so far this Monday for traffic. That's on South Orange Avenue at Weatherby. Just seeing those minor delays here. This is an accident involving some injuries, according to FHP. So use caution if you're traveling in that direction. In terms of our highways and interstates, though, things are smooth sailing. Here's a live look. State Road 528, which is the beach line. This is at Innovation Way. No issues to report there. Looking at those travel times along the beach line from I-4 to State Road 436, we're sitting in the green in both directions at 10 minutes. Maren, Jason, back to you.
Thanks, Megan. A WWE superstar has set a new world record.
And it has nothing to do with wrestling. We'll explain coming up. But first, the day has finally arrived. NASA is set to slam a spacecraft into a small asteroid millions of miles away. We've got the details after the break. Stay with us.
Falcon 9.
We're working on a new half hour of WESH 2 News Sunrise for you this morning.
Coming up at 4:30, we are breaking down how our local school districts are preparing for Ian. Plus, the impending storm is already causing changes at Orlando International's airport's newest terminal. What officials are now delaying until after Ian passes.
And our first warning weather team continues to track Ian right now. We'll bring you an update from meteorologists Kellyanne Klass and Eric Burris coming up here on Sunrise. And right now on this Monday, it is nice and quiet as you see this view through the Tower Cam network of downtown Orlando. We'll look at your day ahead forecast coming up in our next half hour of WESH 2 News Sunrise. Don't go anywhere.
Local, live, late breaking. WESH 2 News Sunrise starts now.
Now on WESH 2 News Sunrise, preparing for Ian. The tropical storm is moving through the Atlantic and it appears to be aiming for our state. We'll time out when and where it could hit as Florida enters a state of emergency.
We also have WESH 2 reporters Bob Hazen and Tony Atkins live this morning. They'll be tracking how some of our local counties are getting ready to weather this storm.
And Sheldon Dutes and Sonica Dange are in the studio. Sheldon?
And still ahead, I'll have some reminders on what you should have at your home right now before Ian gets to our area.
And I'm monitoring how the storm is impacting some of our local school districts this week. That's straight ahead. Jason Mayer?
All right, and we thank you for joining the whole Sunrise team on this Monday as we time out Tropical Storm Ian. I'm Jason Guy.
And I'm Meredith McDonough, first warning meteorologist Kellyanne Class, and also Eric Burris joining us this morning to get things started. So a lot to get to, guys. Let's do it.
Yeah, and let's start with Kellyanne.
Yeah, and we don't have any tropical warnings yet here in Central Florida, but for Southwest Florida and the Keys, already starting to see tropical storm watches and warnings in effect. But again, nothing for Central Florida just yet. However, as we go throughout the day, as Ian gets closer, that will change. Waiting on that 5 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. As of now, of course, to talk much more about that and the threat is meteorologist Eric Burris.
All right, so based on that forecast cone there, think about this. No matter what side of the cone the storm falls on, you have an equal chance of being impacted. I think that this is a lesson we learned particularly roughly back in 2004, 18 years ago with Hurricane Charlie. And a lot of people have been making kind of comparisons, but this is the one focus I want to make sure you know. If you're on the left side, up into the Panhandle. If you're on the right side, back over to Fort Myers. If you're here in Orlando, up to Jacksonville, equal chance of the center of circulation moving over your location, okay? Very, very important sidebar there. That said, at 4:33, let's get a first warning traffic check. Here's Megan. Good morning.
Eric, good morning. In terms of traffic, things are pretty quiet to start our Monday following one new crash here on Orange Blossom Trail. This is at Lancaster Road. Just minor delays here. This one was just reported by FHP this morning. Want to give you a live look now at State Road 429. Heading onto the turnpike, you can see a smooth drive. Not many cars out so far this morning. Coming up in just a couple minutes, I'll have a look at those travel times.
Happening this morning in Lake County, at least 3 sandbag locations will be offering help to any residents who have disabilities. That includes a site at Fire Station 10 in Astor, the Mineola Athletic Complex, or Pear Park in Leesburg. Sandbag sites open at 8 a.m.
Sandbags will also be available in Osceola County this morning. Many people got going early over the weekend collecting sand for their homes. This is what it looked like yesterday at Osceola Heritage Park. People told WESH 2 News they've been able to get sand with no problems, but other supplies have been hard to come by this weekend.
We've actually haven't been able to find water. We've gone to Walmart, we've gone to 7-Elevens, racetracks, everywhere, and right now we can't find any water.
Families say they're hoping new shipments of water will be in today. Sand in Osceola County will be available again starting at 8 o'clock this morning.
Starting today, Bethune-Cookman University will be under a mandatory evacuation for Tropical Storm Ian.
And that means all classes are canceled for the day. WESH 2's Tony Atkins is live near campus this morning. And Tony, this is the first evacuation that's been announced here in Central Florida.
Yeah, Jason, the university is calling this a precautionary move to keep students and staff safe. Now, in a memo to the student body, the university also did note it will begin picking up learning remotely starting tomorrow. For now, reporting live in Volusia County, Tony Atkins, WESH 2 News.
Thank you, Tony. And many of our local school districts are closely monitoring the path of the storm to see if they need to make any changes to their class schedules.
Sonica has been monitoring any changes for us this morning, and Sonica, at least one district is canceling school for a few days.
Yeah, we know a lot of parents are waking up this morning with that question. We know Lake County Public Schools announced they will be letting students go an hour early tomorrow, and that all classes will be canceled on Wednesday and Thursday. That is in part because the district believes its buildings may be needed as evacuation shelters for the storm. Classes are expected to resume as normal on Friday. As of this morning, it looks like all of our other local districts plan to continue as normal, at least for today. Both Orange and Seminole County schools say they will provide an update on their plans tonight based on the latest forecast and track. Osceola County says schools will be in session today and tomorrow, and decisions for the remainder of the week will be sent out later. Polk County Schools warned it's possible after-school activities could be canceled on Tuesday, but that decision has not been made yet. Volusia and Brevard County Schools say they are monitoring the storm and will let families know of any changes to their schedules as Ian moves closer to the state. And of course, as we learn more, we'll bring it right to you. Mayor?
All right, Sonica. Well, Governor Ron DeSantis has issued a state of emergency for all of Florida ahead of the storm. He's also activated the National Guard and is urging everyone to stay alert. You can download the WESH 2 News mobile app to have any weather alerts for your area sent straight to your device. Just make sure that your notifications are turned on. Still ahead this morning, we'll go back to our first warning weather team for another check on Tropical Storm Ian.
They'll have an updated forecast for you in just a few minutes. Also ahead, it's time to check your hurricane kit. What you'll want to pick up at the store today if you don't already have it.
Look, weather's personal. When I get to work, I'm thinking about you and how the weather impacts your day. That's why I bring your forecast into focus, so you can clearly see what the day looks like. Whether on TV or chatting with you on Facebook Live, I'm always here to let you know if storms are on the way or if it's a great day to get outside with family and friends. Because keeping your forecast in focus is personal. I'm your Chief Meteorologist, Tony Manoff.
You're watching WESH 2.
Welcome back to Sunrise. Tropical Storm Ian could become a hurricane soon, and it possibly is headed toward our state in the next few days.
And Florida officials are urging you to use this time to prepare. Sheldon is back to talk about the items that should be at the top of your shopping list. Sheldon?
All right, Jason and Mayor, thanks so much. Florida's emergency management team says it is extremely important to have enough food and water right now, since this storm could force you to stay at home longer than you expect. All right, when it comes to water, keep in mind experts recommend at least a gallon of water per person per day. They also say it is best to stock up on batteries and to make sure that your first aid kit is also stocked. Flashlights are another must, along with a battery-operated weather radio, and make sure you have at least 2 weeks worth of prescription medications, along with any supplies that you may need for younger kids, like diapers or formula. You can find all of this information right now at WESH.com. Just click on the WESH 2 Hurricane Survival Guide for 2022. Mayor.
Sheldon, happening today ahead of the storm, the National Hurricane Center and FEMA will hold a joint briefing about Tropical Storm Ian. Officials plan to discuss the path of the storm and also efforts already underway to respond to it. The briefing is expected to begin at noon. We'll bring you any updates right here on WESH. And the time now is 4:44. We want to get right to the path of this storm this morning, where it is now and where it could go in the next few days.
So we bring in first warning meteorologist Kellyanne Klass. What are you watching with the system now?
So right now it's starting to get better organized. We are noticing from the hurricane hunters that the pressure is dropping. Still waiting on that 5 a.m. advisory, though, from the National Hurricane. So what you need to know for the latest timeline is today to tonight, it's going to get stronger as it heads to Cuba. Tomorrow is going to be continued intensification approaching southwest Florida. Then by Wednesday, that's when we'll be watching for landfall potentially and even some impacts to arrive to central Florida. To talk much more about those impacts is meteorologist Eric Burris.
All right, good morning to you, Kellyanne. So when we look at the overall forecast picture, we think the greatest, most impactful element will be flooding rains, and that's on top of all of the downpours we've had these last few weeks. The soil is already saturated, so there's a big concern there. Then we look at the threat for gusty winds, tornadoes, the severe storms and wind gusts are there. For us, storm surge is low, but I put an asterisk there because when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the WESH 2 CW18 coverage area, which includes the east coast of the peninsula. The west coast actually has quite a high threat for storm surge, but our Brevard, Volusia, Flagler residents, the storm surge is not a concern. Look at some of these rainfall numbers. I'm showing you both reliable global models, the Euro and the GFS. The orange shaded family up into the reds there, depending on which model. You're talking a half a foot to a foot of rain widely scattered across our entire area. And then, depending on its exact motion, we would think that we're going to be on that right front quadrant of this storm system. And when we say that, we take the forward motion and it's just that right side. That side over time has proven to have a higher threat for tornadoes. Now, they're usually lower end tornadoes, but they are rain-wrapped tornadoes. That's never a good thing. So we're definitely going to be on the lookout. I would suspect that if we stay on this right front quadrant, we would be then talking about, particularly on Wednesday into Thursday, the threat for tornado. All right, back here at home, it is a lovely start to the day. Temperatures are in the 60s in our northern spots, mid to upper 70s, though, for the metro. Nice and quiet on our first warning live Doppler radar. Today, it is a 40% coverage of showers and thunder showers. Tomorrow, though, we're going to start to get into some of those tropical storm downpours. And then Wednesday, Thursday, the most inclement of the weather. Storms lingering for Friday, but clearing out, thankfully, for our Saturday and our Sunday. Just about 4:50. Let's get over to Megan. First warning.
Eric, good morning. I am following a new issue. If you're heading out for your morning drive, it's here along Kirkman Road at Metro West Boulevard. We are seeing those pretty heavy delays building there this morning. This one was just reported by FHP, so if you're heading in that direction, expect those delays there. I want to give you a live look at I-95. This is near Smyrna Beach. This is looking at the southbound side, not tracking any issues on I-95 near our coastline this morning. Giving you a look at those travel times along I-4 now from Altamont Springs to downtown Orlando and back. We're sitting at about 7 minutes. Jason the Mayor, back to you.
All right, Megan. Coming up here on Sunrise, making sure your home is ready for a hurricane.
What you can do before Ian approaches.
Also, coming up on Sunrise, waiting to move across terminals. How this storm is impacting operations at Orlando International Airport this week.
This hurricane season, WESH 2 first warning weather is focused on your safety.
Giving you clear information.
Continue to watch a strong storm
so you can always be prepared for what's headed your way.
Before, during, and after the next storm, we'll be here for you.
Trusted forecasters with the accuracy you can rely on, working around the clock when Mother Nature is at her worst.
We are WESH 2 first warning weather.
Download the WESH 2 app to stay informed this hurricane season.
WESH 2 News.
There's a lot that goes into covering breaking news in Central Florida.
We're leaving right away.
Leads, research, relationships.
Our source came through.
It's the foundation for what we do.
Getting in the shot right now. Stand by.
Dedication takes us into the story. And it's the story that drives our dedication.
We begin tonight with breaking news.
WESH 2 has a crew live at the scene.
That suspect still on the run.
Local, live, late breaking. This is WESH 2 News.
Welcome back to Sunrise. We expect to learn today if the University of Central Florida will be canceling any classes this week. The university tweeted Sunday that everything was operating on a normal schedule for now. They will use the UCF alert system to notify students and staff if anything changes. That includes any potential changes to Family Weekend, which is coming up this weekend. Tropical storm Ian is already causing a delay at Orlando International Airport.
Yeah, officials announced that JetBlue Airways and Caribbean Airlines will now wait to relocate their operations to the new terminal there. They were supposed to start sending passengers out of Terminal C this week, but the airport says it has decided to delay this move as a precaution ahead of the storm. International flights have already started to operate out of Terminal C. The Orlando Airport says check with your airline for any changes to your upcoming trips.
Some advice from the city of Orlando this morning. Officials are recommending you bag and bundle any yard waste that you may have before the rain hits this week. They say this can prevent leaves and other waste from clogging the storm drains, which could cause flooding around your home.
There are already some areas of Florida that have been warned to be ready to evacuate this week. They're on the west side of our state around Tampa. Officials say the most at-risk people living in low-lying areas along the Tampa coast. They'll be asked to leave for a shelter along with anyone who believes their home will not be able to sustain extreme winds. And now is a good time to check if you live in an evacuation zone. Visit the website floridadisaster.org/knowyourzone to find out more. Our tropical storm coverage continues at 5 o'clock right here on WESH 2 News Sunrise.
And here's what's coming up in just a few minutes. Bob.
If you still need them, it is time to fill up sandbags where Seminole County is opening up some new locations today. Kellyanne.
Good morning, everyone. 5 a.m. advisory is out. We now have Hurricane Ian, winds of 75 miles per hour. Pressure is now down to 983 millibars. We'll time out the activity that we could see as it still continues to strengthen and also give you the impacts to Central Florida.
Also ahead this morning, filling up before the storm, what gas prices are looking like today as Ian aims for the coast.
And we'll take you to a Tower Cam Network view. This is a view toward our tourist district through the Tower Cam Network, and you can see Icon Park and the wheel there all lit up and moving along. This is Lake Eola right now. Today's weather is not looking too bad, but we're going to talk about the deteriorating forecast over the days ahead coming up next at 5 o'clock.